Welcome back to another BikeRide.com review. I'm your host Scott, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Fiido M1 Pro. So few bikes on the market are so closely copied between brands as the folding e-bike genre. You can really be forgiven for seeing little difference between the models at a glance. The Fiido M1 Pro is one of these folding e-bikes. It has a rectangular frame that folds at the center and at the handlebars, and it has a very similar look to other bikes from brands like Lectric, Heybike, or ENGWE. So how are you going to make your decision? Well, stay tuned today as we go through the Fiido M1 Pro in detail, comparing it to other bikes we've tested in order to find its strengths and weaknesses. So let's go ride some bikes. But before I roll the intro, if you haven't already, please give me a like and a subscribe to the channel. We make all these videos for you guys, so I want to hear what you want to see next and see what you like and don't like about the bikes. So what is the Fiido bike M1 Pro? Well, the M1 Pro is an inexpensive folding bike, which is selling for less than $1,000 US at the time of writing. It features a similar folding style to other bikes in the category, folding in half at the frame with folding handlebars and a set of folding pedals. This design reduces its size considerably, enough to fit in most cars and SUVs with little effort. And the Fiido M1 also has a full suspension setup, with a rear shock and a front suspension fork. It uses a 500-watt rear hub motor, and it also has mechanical brakes for stopping. The bike's pedal assist speed is only approximately 15 miles per hour, but after unlocking the throttle, you can travel up to 24 miles an hour without pedaling. These speeds are slower than other bikes in the category, which generally would have a pedal assist speed of 20 miles per hour. So how's this bike going to work in real-world testing? Let's take a closer look at the bike's pros and cons. The first pro for the bike is an easy one. It's that folding design. The principal benefit of these bikes is the ability to fold down. It allows them to fit into smaller spaces, and it saves you space, which makes it easier to transport in different vehicles. While most e-bikes will require a vehicle-mounted bike rack for transport, the folding e-bike allows you to store them in the trunk of a car. I've also heard from people who will place them into Rubbermaid style totes, which can make moving and lifting the bikes easier. Some can even fit two of these bikes inside separate totes in the rear of an SUV or a pickup truck. The folding design also allows you to more easily store the bike in cramped quarters, such as tiny homes, RVs, and apartments, or if you simply want to save some space in your garage. The folding and locking system on the M1 Pro is rather generic, featuring a clasp-style closing mechanism. This system offers an additional lock on both the middle fold and the handlebars, which increases safety when the bike is set up for riding. One thing to note though is that the bike does not offer a way to keep it closed when it's folded. So an excellent way to do that is to use a bungee cord. The second pro for the unit is the full suspension ride. Despite its low price tag, the M1 Pro has some additional features, such as its front suspension fork and that rear coil suspension. The combined effect improves riding comfort, even though the suspension features budget components. The front fork in particular was surprisingly plush. It didn't have the typical heavy resistance which is common on lower end forks. And the rear shock by comparison is very firm, and it offered minimal assistance with hard bumps. It's better than nothing though. Your rear end is going to appreciate any additional suspension that can be provided. Talking about that, the fat 4-inch tires can also be used in conjunction with the suspension to improve that ride quality. Adjusting air pressure to suit the riding terrain will be very helpful, allowing you to add a little bit of extra cushioning to the setup. I found this really improved the ride quality overall by using the correct tire pressure. And our final pro for the bike is the high top speed that it can attain using the throttle. The M1 Pro was a bit of an oddity regarding its top speed. On first inspection, it would not travel faster than approximately 15 miles per hour, which is 20 to 24 kilometers an hour. And the top speed affected both the pedal assist and the throttle. A short look online revealed that the bike could be unlocked to change its top speed. In order to unlock the bike, you're going to hold the right brake lever and throttle down together for about 5 seconds. Then you're going to turn the bike on while holding it. This brings up the advanced options menu. Cycle down one option and you can unlock the bike. Then you need to press and hold the 2 buttons on the control pad together until you see the display flash a 0. This second action unlocks the display to show the increased speed limit properly. After this has been completed, the bike is capable of traveling up to approximately 24 miles per hour, which is about 40 kilometers an hour. But it was only capable of this speed while using the throttle. If you attempted to use the pedal assist, it would kick back to its 15 mile per hour speed limit. I got around this by holding the throttle continuously while I pedaled, which increased the max speed while providing pedal power to supplement the motor. When using the throttle only, you could easily zip around at 24 miles per hour, a surprisingly peppy performance for the bike's 500 watt motor size. I was also shocked by its results in our 0 to 20 test in hill climbs. It managed to defeat many other 500 watt motors due to its torque heavy acceleration. This offered impressive overall times during hill testing, which were made possible by its ability to maintain speed while using nut throttle. And now starting with the cons for the bike. Our first con was the component quality. The M1 Pro is a budget folding bike, and this becomes apparent when we get a closer look at some of its components. Most notable are those generic no-name mechanical brakes, the 7-speed tourney drivetrain, and the shifter, as well as gearing that really leaves you ghost pedaling at the bike's top speed. I was also discouraged to find that the brake levers are actually reversed from the North American standard. The right brake lever controls the front brake, and the left controls the rear. I find this very frustrating and unsafe for bikes that really should be set up in the standard format when they're being sold in North America. For riders who are accustomed to a right side rear brake, it's very easy to grab a handful of front brakes by accident, which would send you for an unwanted tumble. I also found that the brakes needed consistent adjustment to eliminate rubbing. Even after adjustment, they were very loud when you were stopping, no matter the circumstance. These issues left me without much confidence in the brakes, despite a fairly standard stopping distance that we achieved during testing. I was also unimpressed to see that the rear brake cable travels on the opposite side of the bike from the fold. This means that every time you fold the bike, the brake cable is being placed under some strain, which is likely going to result in more frequent service due to cable wear and stretch. None of the bike's component choices really stood out to me. Instead, they really reinforced the bike's budget category placement, despite having Pro placed in its name. The second con for the bike was that low speed that we could attain at pedal assist. So the M1 Pro ships with a pedal assist speed of just 15 miles per hour, which is pretty low by general e-bike standards. It was frustrating that even after unlocking the bike, because the throttle would only be the one that would perform at the new speed, the pedal assist still went 15 miles per hour. And this required me to hold the throttle while I was pedaling. The throttle does feature an autopilot function, which will maintain speed after holding it for about 10 seconds, but as soon as you pedal, it's going to shut off, leaving you hanging on the throttle again. So even though the motor offered good acceleration and top speed when using the throttle, it was disappointing that the pedal assist did not have the same top speed. This was an inconvenience that I could definitely see frustrating me over the lifetime of the bike, especially if I was planning to use it for consistent commuting. Our final con for the bike was the display's visibility and features. Now the M1 Pro uses a dimly lit LED display, which was challenging to see in sunlight. It has a blue color that really wasn't helpful except for in darker situations, and I found myself consistently squinting and shading the display with my hand to try to get a better look at it. I also was not impressed with the display's lack of features. It only showed basic information such as your speed, pedal assist level, plus a 5-bar battery display. There's no options to cycle through for trip or associated info. And the assist level is also represented as a small set of numbers from 1 to 3, which was pretty challenging to see at the best of times when I was out riding during the day. So what does it do best? Well, the Fiido M1 Pro fills its role as a budget commuter bike, with pricing under $1,000 US. Its strongest assets are definitely its low cost and that ability to fold up, reducing its size. A hidden ability also came to light during testing, which was that 500-watt motor, which was shockingly capable and torque heavy. This resulted in a great 0 to 20 time and above average results regarding our hill climbs. It also comes equipped with a front light and fenders, which are two critical components for traveling comfortably on the road as a commuter. Plus, it has a high top speed when you're using throttle power and a reasonable range at just over 20 miles. If you use the high-speed throttle, it can push you to your destination without breaking a sweat. Pretty nice if you're showing up to work or a date and would rather not look like you just put some miles down. So what are my reasons to look elsewhere? Well, the bike definitely leans into its budget nature, not offering much in the form of performance or high-end components. While it would be hard to expect fancy mechanical parts on a bike in this price range, I still felt a little disappointed in its offering. The no-name mechanical brakes required a fair amount of tweaking to eliminate rubbing. And still, under braking conditions, they were very loud and uncertain. The bike's display also was a con for me because of how challenging it was to see it in direct sunlight. Many people love to ride on sunny days, but bright light made it challenging to see the display, which was especially frustrating when trying to see my assist level, speed, and remaining battery level. So if you're on a budget and looking for an e-bike capable of fitting into small spaces, you may be able to overlook these negative attributes, especially if you value a high-speed throttle response for the price. But if you have experience with other e-bikes, or you have higher expectations for component quality, you could easily be disappointed in the M1 Pro. Getting into the frame and geometry. When we take a look at the frame, we see a fairly generic folding style, with a single rectangular tube in the center. This center tube conceals the battery inside. The head tube is also very vertical, which can cause some issues for riders during turns and descents. It pulls you forward on the bike and creates more opportunities to crash during a tight turn. Overall though, the frame felt solid and confident during use. The lockouts for opening and closing the two folding sections both feature a kind of lock, which helps to ensure that the bike can't fold while you're riding it. The frame also has additional support at the rear of the seat, and it's supported by a coil suspension component on the rear, which assists in smoothing out the ride over rough terrain. The rear shock is very firm though, only offering assistance on more significant impacts. And the front fork by comparison is very plush. I found it to be an enjoyable asset while I was out riding. That front suspension fork offers 90 millimeters of travel. An issue I found with the bike's design is the lack of any adjustment to increase the height of the handlebars. Other folders sometimes have a vertical adjustment that extends the height of the bars. Because of this, I found that the bike felt slightly cramped for me at 6 feet tall. I had the seat almost at its full extension and would have liked to increase the handlebar height. This really makes me wonder if the bike would actually be a good fit for people up to 6'5" as the specs claim. I can imagine someone of that height would be very bent over the bike and could feel pretty cramped if they had long legs. Taking a look at the measurements, we got a seat tube measurement of 17 inches, a reach measurement of 21 inches, a stack measurement of 17 inches, standover height of 28 inches, virtual top tube length of 25 inches, handlebar height of 41.73 inches, with a minimum saddle height of 32.67 inches and a max saddle height of 41.73 inches, which gives us a wheelbase of 47.63 inches. Now when the bike's folded, it has a total height of 32 inches, a width of 38 inches, and a depth of 20 inches, which is a pretty good size when it's folded. This all gives us a recommended rider height between 5'1" and 6'5". The motor is a 500 watt nominal motor from a Chinese producer, and it's a geared rear hub electric motor with a 1:5 reduction ratio. And I was pretty impressed with this 500 watt motor's capabilities. It had a great torque heavy feel during acceleration, making it powerful enough to provide excellent assistance on our medium hill test. It felt more powerful than other 500 watt motors we've tested recently, and I was shocked by the motor's overall results in our 0 to 20 test and hill climbs, as it defeated almost all the other 500 watt motors we've recently tested. This torque heavy response and ability to retain speed while using the throttle are both significant assets for a bike with a pretty lackluster performance in some other areas. They allow the M1 to regain some standing. Now the downside of this bike and motor is that it's only powerful and capable of high speed when you're using the throttle. The pedal assist on this bike tops off at 15 miles per hour, as we've mentioned, which is low for a commuter bike. So in order to gain maximum speed and assist, I first had to unlock the bike's top speed. Then I had to unlock the display in order to show the speed correctly. And only then could I use the throttle to speed up to 24 miles per hour. The pedal assist did not increase from that 15 miles per hour, forcing you to pedal and use the throttle together to reach higher assisted speeds. We got a total time of 10 seconds using the throttle and only 7 seconds using the pedal assist from 0 to 20. And it also resulted in a very good set of times for our small and medium hill climb, defeating many recent competitors. Next, the cockpit and control. The cockpit and control of the M1 Pro are incredibly simple, so much so that it really left me wishing for more information from that display. The bike is controlled by 4 buttons, with a dedicated light and horn button on the small 2-button control pad. The other 2 buttons are located on the display itself. Using the top button, the display is turned on and off by long pressing. The lower button on the display rotates through the other 3 pedal assist levels. And that's it. The display offers only battery level, current speed, and your assist level. Unlike most e-bikes, which offer odometers, range estimates, trip timers, power output, and more. So it was a little bit disappointing. And while some may enjoy this simplistic display with its lack of features, I really didn't. The presence of the dedicated light and horn button was a nice touch, which made it easier to turn the light on and off. Now, another notable feature of the M1 Pro is that the key must be inserted during operation. The keyhole is found on the lower side of the frame, similar to other folders, and that key has to be turned to the right position for the bike to operate. So make sure you don't lose it, and if your bike's not turning on, that's the first place to check. The bike is powered by a 48 volt, 12.8 amp hour battery, which is concealed inside the bike's frame. The M1 Pro packs a smaller than average battery, but the battery is sized appropriately for the 500 watt motor. But we're not seeing any added value here in terms of additional capacity. Now the battery resulted in a total range of a little over 20 miles, a reasonable range considering I was using the throttle excessively for higher assist speeds. This is the only way to operate the bike at speeds over 15 miles per hour, which I really find a painstakingly slow pace for commuting or range testing, with Class 3 bikes traveling nearly twice the speed at full throttle. The battery meter on the unit was fairly accurate though, but I did find that it had a noticeable loss of power when we reached that last battery bar, with the unit traveling very slowly. So I'd treat the second to last battery bar as a low battery warning, and reserve the last battery bar for when you need a little extra power to get you back home. Our range test managed to go 20.49 miles with 738 feet of elevation gain in a little over an hour with an average speed of 18.1 miles per hour. The bike is serviced by a 54.6 volt 2 amp output charger, and it takes approximately 6 to 7 hours on this charger to recharge that battery fully. Now the charger plugs into a small charge slot on the side of the bike, which is protected by a rubber stopper. The battery can also be charged when it's off the bike through the same hole. The location of the battery inside of the frame of the bike requires the bike to be folded in order for that battery to be removed, which can be a little bit annoying. So I generally charged it while installed on the bike for ease of use. Now the key is located on the bottom of the frame, towards the seat, directly under the locking clasp, and it has to be inserted and turned to the on position for the bike to turn on and operate. A good thing to keep in mind if your bike isn't turning on. To remove the battery, first you're going to fold the bike. This will reveal the battery inside the frame. Next, reach under to the key. You're going to need to push the key in and turn it in the opposite direction you'd turn it to turn the bike on. This is going to release the small locking tab that extends through the bike frame to keep the battery in place. Once the battery is released, it'll slide easily out of the frame. Reinserting is just the opposite. You slide it into place, push and turn the key to lock it, and then swing the bike back into its closed position. The M1 has a Shimano drivetrain with a turny shifter and rear derailleur. This has the TX50 overhand shifter and turny derailleur, which we've seen on a lot of other units. They offer pretty basic shifting with a visual indicator for gearing. The performance is nothing special, but on a budget bike, it seems to be standard. The 7-speed drivetrain has a large 48-tooth front crankset and a 14 to 28-tooth rear freewheel, which is a fine range when dealing with the pedal assist level of 15 miles per hour. But as soon as you reach or exceed 20 miles per hour using the throttle, pedaling becomes less comfortable. The gearing produced a lot of ghost pedaling at high speeds, which can lead to knee discomfort over a long ride. So you seem to be better off letting the throttle do most of the work if you plan on traveling at the top speed. For lower speed riding, the 14 to 28 tooth range is just fine, and it's a pretty typical setup that we see on lots of these lower speed or lower priced bikes. For brakes, we have a set of mechanical brakes, and they're from an unknown manufacturer on this bike. They did not inspire great confidence during testing, because right off the bat they required consistent tweaking to ensure that they weren't rubbing the rotors during use. After this was done and zeroed in, they were still a very loud performer during testing, producing a lot of rotor noise and squealing when you were braking. These noises failed to inspire confidence. And finally, when it came to testing, the performance was less than perfect, with a slightly longer stopping time than other similar brakes we've tested recently. It took 21 feet in total to come to a complete stop from 20 miles per hour. Next, taking a look at the wheels, tires, and fenders. The bike rolls in on a set of 20-inch by 4-inch CST BFT tires with 20-inch alloy rims, and the M1 has a similar setup to that of other bikes in the category. These tires are really a fine companion for the bike, featuring a multi-purpose tread that offers decent traction and grip on various surfaces. They roll quickly on pavement and prove large enough lugs for light off-road riding. I found the bike to be a fine performer on most surfaces, testing it on loose gravel, sand, dirt, and pavement. I enjoyed the wheel and tire size overall, and surprisingly the 20-inch wheels were not a nuisance at higher speeds. The bike enjoyed relatively stable riding at higher speeds even during descents, and I didn't feel uncomfortable because of the wheels or tires. Our test model also came with fenders on the front and rear. These were made of a flexible plastic, and they could definitely rattle around during use. But in the end, despite the noises, they did a good job preventing road debris and water from reaching the bike and your body. Since it's a commuter bike, I appreciate the inclusion of the fenders. But looking online, it seems that only some of the M1 bikes come with these fenders, and it may have been an add-on on our test model. So it's good to check this when you're purchasing the bike. Getting down to the kickstand on the unit, it has a fairly standard single-sided kickstand, but our model's kickstand seemed a bit short, and it allowed the bike to fall if it was placed on uneven ground. I attempted to adjust the stand, but it either doesn't feature adjustment or our model was stuck or broken and it wouldn't adjust. And finally, taking a look at the contact points, starting off with the grips. And the ones that came with the M1 Pro are a pretty common set of ergonomic rubber slip-on grips. They're fairly comfortable, but they didn't offer much traction on your hands, and they can move a bit on the bars. Not enough to cause issues, but it was definitely more than a lock-on grip would. The saddle is a Fiido branded sport style saddle, which is manufactured by Keisan. It features minimal padding and a sporty shape. I did notice that it felt a little hard, which led to some minor discomfort after 20 miles in the saddle. But it's similar to many mountain bike saddles, and it does not affect pedaling. So in some ways, a firmer, more athletic saddle is better than a large plush saddle that affects your ability to ride and pedal the bike. For the pedals, we have a set of flat plastic platform pedals on the cranks of the M1. These offer little in terms of grip and performance because they have pretty small plastic pegs for grip. Now, I did not find them to be an issue during the range test, but if you're attempting to use the bike off-road, you may notice some slippage. The major benefit of these pedals is that they can fold, which allows the bike to diminish its width by a few vital inches on each side. It's a nice feature for a folding bike to make the profile even smaller, ensuring that you can fit into the tight spaces required by urban riders. After getting out and exploring with the M1 Pro, it's clearly a mixed bag of performance and attributes. Some assets like its high-speed throttle capability and full suspension setup are great to see on a budget bike. However, other items, like component quality, left something to be desired. It performs its duties as a folding e-bike effectively. The diminished profile appears well suited to urban users who are low on space. I also enjoyed the high-speed throttle and its plush suspension fork, which both performed better than I expected. Still, it was a far cry from a hole-in-one for the M1 Pro, especially with its low pedal assist speed of 15 miles per hour. This means prospective buyers should test out other models to get a good feeling for the places this bike excels, as well as what could be done better, before they settle in for a purchase one way or the other. Is this bike for you? Check out the detailed specs at bikeride.com and see user and expert reviews. You can also check out other great e-bikes and see them rated to find your perfect match. Do you have a question or something you want to say? Let me know in the comments and we'll start getting you some answers. So if you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe so we can keep on bringing you the greatest e-bike news and reviews. We do it all for you guys, the viewers, so please let us know what you like because that's what makes this all possible. I'm Scott with bikeride.com. I want to thank you for watching and I hope that you enjoy the ride.